Who are these men that's driving this boat so fast? I mean, at this point, the boat looks like it has wings.
Lake Michigan stretches endlessly before you, its surface shimmering like liquid glass under the summer sun. Families laugh on nearby boats, music drifts across the water, and the Chicago skyline creates a postcard-perfect backdrop. This is the playpen, where Chicagoans escape the city's heat and stress. But beneath that calm, inviting surface lies one of the most dangerous bodies of water in North America. What appears peaceful can turn deadly in seconds, with invisible currents strong enough to pull even the strongest swimmers to their doom. On Saturday, June 21st, 2025, 26-year-old Zari Walls discovered this terrifying truth. She was a successful celebrity hairstylist with over 75,000 Instagram followers, a devoted daughter, and a woman who rarely took time off work. That day, she made a rare decision to join friends for what should have been a perfect boat trip. Instead, Lake Michigan claimed another life, leaving behind heartbroken loved ones and unanswered questions about what really happened in those final moments. Before we continue with Zari's story, I need to ask you something important. How many of you have been out on a boat during summer without really thinking about the dangers? Maybe you felt that false sense of security when the water looks calm and inviting? Hit that subscribe button right now if you want to hear more stories like this. Stories that could literally save your life or the life of someone you love. And drop a comment below telling me about your own experiences with water activities. Have you ever been in a situation that felt safe but turned scary? Because what happened to Zari could happen to anyone, and her story contains lessons we all need to hear. Saturday, June 21st, 2025 marked Chicago's first major heat wave of the summer. Temperatures soared into the mid-90s, with heat indices climbing above 100 degrees. The scorching conditions drove thousands of people to seek relief on Lake Michigan's waters. The playpen, located near Navy Pier, became a floating party zone packed with boats of every size. This popular sandbar area typically attracts boaters looking to anchor, swim, and socialize during hot weekends. But that particular Saturday brought more than just heat. Dangerous offshore winds were whipping across the lake, creating deceptive conditions that would prove fatal. Weather experts later described the combination as perfect for disaster. Extreme heat driving people to the water, strong winds creating unpredictable currents, and weekend crowds overwhelming emergency responders. The Chicago Fire Department would respond to 90 water-related emergency calls that day alone. For Zari Walls, what began as a rare day off from her demanding career would end in tragedy that shocked her community and highlighted the hidden dangers lurking beneath Lake Michigan's beautiful surface. Zari Walls grew up on Chicago's west side in the North Lawndale neighborhood, where she learned early that family came first. Her mother, Kizzy Wells, often marveled at how mature her daughter was from such a young age. While other kids played carelessly, Zari carried herself with a responsibility that seemed beyond her years. She was just so mature from such a young age. Her mother would later recall. Her whole focus was to take care of her family. This wasn't just talk. Zari lived it every day. She formed an incredibly tight bond with her younger sister Tia and became a devoted godmother to a 5-year-old who looked up to her like a second mother. Even as a teenager, Zari knew exactly what she wanted to do with her life. By age 14, she had already decided to become a beautician. This wasn't a passing phase or teenage dream. It was a calling that would define her entire adult life. She approached this goal with the same maturity and determination that characterized everything else she did. The North Lawndale community watched Zari grow from a responsible young girl into an ambitious woman who never forgot where she came from or the people who mattered most. Zari transformed her teenage dream into a thriving empire, becoming known throughout Chicago and beyond as Z Money, a name that perfectly captured her business success and celebrity status. She owned her own salon and built a reputation that attracted high-profile clients from across the entertainment industry. Her Instagram account, @ZariAthestalist, boasted over 75,000 followers who eagerly watched her transform clients with her skilled hands. The account was filled with before and after clips showcasing her artistry, celebrity client sessions, and glimpses into her glamorous professional world. Each post demonstrated why she had earned the title of celebrity stylist. Zari's work ethic was legendary among those who knew her. She regularly traveled to different cities, chasing opportunities and expanding her client base. On any given day, she might handle 10 to 12 hair appointments, working from early morning until late evening. Her phone constantly buzzed with booking requests from clients who trusted only her with their hair. Despite her success and growing fame, Zari rarely took time off. Her dedication to her craft and her clients meant that personal relaxation was a luxury she seldom afforded herself. Friends and family often encouraged her to slow down, but Zari was driven by an ambition that seemed unstoppable. The deepest wound in Zari's heart came from losing her best friend, Kenneka Jenkins, in 2017. Kenneka's tragic death at the Crown Plaza Chicago O'Hare, where she was found in a hotel freezer, devastated Zari in ways that never fully healed. The case drew national attention, but for Zari, it wasn't a news story. It was the loss of someone she considered family. Zari frequently posted about Kenneka on social media, calling her an eternity sister and expressing grief that seemed to deepen rather than fade with time. The pain of losing Kenneka shaped how Zari approached every relationship afterward. She became even more protective of the people she loved, holding them closer and expressing her feelings more openly. This loss taught Zari that life could change in an instant, that the people you love could be taken away without warning. She carried this knowledge with her every day, making sure the important people in her life knew exactly how much they meant to her. Those who knew Zari best described her as having a humble spirit that touched everyone around her. Despite her professional success and growing celebrity status, she remained grounded and genuinely caring toward others. Friends and clients alike remembered how she had a gift for encouraging people, especially when they were going through difficult times. Even when Zari herself wasn't feeling her best, she somehow found the strength to lift others up. Her phone calls always ended the same way, with those 3 simple words, "I love you." It wasn't just a casual goodbye. It was her way of making sure people knew they mattered to her. This combination of professional drive and personal warmth made Zari unforgettable to everyone whose life she touched. For someone who lived and breathed her work, Zari's decision to take a Saturday off was almost unheard of. Her typical schedule involved back-to-back appointments from sunrise to sunset, traveling between cities, and building her empire one client at a time.
A deadly weekend on Lake Michigan has torn one family apart. A 27-year-old woman died Saturday after she fell off a boat. Her mother told our Zahrie Gray this is a tragic reminder of the importance of life jackets.
I would not wish this type of pain on any parent. Oh my gosh.
Fighting back tears, Kizzy Wells says her daughter, 27-year-old Zari Walls, stole her heart, and now she is in pain.
It doesn't feel good.
Walls was with a group of friends on a boat in Lake Michigan near Navy Pier, and Chicago fire officials say she somehow fell off. The U.S. Coast Guard found her body 1.5 miles from shore. She was taken to Northwestern Hospital, where she was pronounced.
We don't know 100% what happened, but as the days come about, we know that as of right now, God called her home.
Wells says her daughter didn't know how to swim and wasn't wearing a life jacket, something her mother says is a reminder for people as they head out on the water this summer.
That's Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
It's not a pool. You have to have special equipment during times such as those.
Wells says her daughter was a celebrity hairstylist. At the young age of 14, she decided she wanted to be a beautician. Kenneka Jenkins was her best friend, and she would experiment on her.
She would do different styles on her head to test. She was like the tester of the different styles.
Jenkins died of hypothermia inside a hotel walk-in freezer in 2017, a story CBS News Chicago covered. Wells says Jenkins invited her daughter to the party at the Crown Plaza in Rosemont, but she declined.
If my baby would have been there with Kenneka, it wouldn't have happened. But God has an expiration date, so we don't have no control over it.
Wall's godfather says despite her hustle to become a hairstylist, she remained humble and giving.
She left a complete mark, and a complete mark on this earth for all people. She exemplified that.
Reporting at Navy Pier, Zahrie Gray, CBS News, Chicago.
Weekends were usually her busiest days, when working professionals could finally get their hair done. Those closest to Zari knew that convincing her to step away from work required serious persuasion. She was the type of person who would cancel personal plans if a high-profile client needed her services. Her phone was constantly buzzing with appointment requests, and she rarely said no to business opportunities. But that Saturday in June was different. Maybe it was the oppressive heat that made even the most dedicated workaholic crave relief. Maybe it was the persistent encouragement from friends who worried she was burning herself out. Whatever the reason, Zari made a decision that was completely out of character for her. She agreed to join friends for a day of relaxation on Lake Michigan. June 21st, 2025 brought weather conditions that meteorologists would later describe as a recipe for disaster. Chicago was experiencing its first major heat wave of the summer, with temperatures climbing into the mid-90s and heat indices soaring above 100 degrees. The oppressive heat created a false sense that the lake would provide safe, cooling relief. But the scorching temperatures came with a deadly companion: strong offshore winds that whipped across Lake Michigan's surface. These weren't gentle summer breezes. They were powerful gusts that created dangerous conditions beneath the water's seemingly calm appearance. Wind speeds reached levels that experienced boaters knew to respect and fear. The combination proved treacherous. While the surface looked inviting and peaceful, the winds were generating powerful underwater currents that could drag even strong swimmers far from shore in minutes. Lake Michigan's temperature remained cold despite the air's heat, creating additional shock for anyone who entered the water unexpectedly. Weather experts and marine safety officials had issued warnings about the conditions, but many weekend boaters either didn't receive the alerts or underestimated the danger. The lake's deceptive beauty masked currents strong enough to overpower multiple rescue attempts. What appeared to be perfect boating weather was actually a deadly trap, waiting to spring on unsuspecting victims. The invitation came from friends who knew how hard Zari worked and wanted to give her a break from her demanding schedule. They had planned a day trip to the Playpen, that popular boating destination near Navy Pier where Chicagoans gathered to escape the city's summer heat. For Zari's friends, this was a routine weekend activity, something they did regularly during warm weather. They knew the area well and had made this trip countless times before without incident. The plan seemed simple and safe: anchor in the shallow waters, enjoy the sun, and help Zari finally relax. The invitation felt like exactly what she needed after months of nonstop work. Two critical facts would seal Zari's fate that day. She couldn't swim, and she chose not to wear a life jacket. For someone who rarely spent time on boats, these decisions might have seemed insignificant in the moment. The water looked calm, friends were nearby, and the boat felt secure. But on Lake Michigan, these choices created a deadly equation. Without swimming skills, Zari had no way to fight the powerful currents if something went wrong. Without a life jacket, she had no backup plan if she ended up in the water unexpectedly. Her mother would later emphasize this tragic combination, saying, "That's Lake Michigan. It's not a pool." The exact moment when Zari fell into Lake Michigan remains unclear, but witnesses described how quickly a perfect day transformed into absolute horror. One second she was on the boat with her friends, enjoying the rare break from her hectic schedule. The next second, she was in the water, fighting for her life against forces she couldn't see or understand. What seemed like a simple fall became a nightmare scenario within seconds. The strong offshore winds that had been creating dangerous conditions all day immediately began pushing Zari away from the boat. The currents beneath the surface, invisible but incredibly powerful, grabbed hold of her and started pulling her toward deeper water. Zari's inability to swim meant she had no skills to combat what was happening to her. While experienced swimmers might have been able to fight the current or at least stay afloat longer, Zari was completely helpless against Lake Michigan's deadly grip. The water that had looked so inviting and peaceful from the boat's deck revealed its true nature: cold, unforgiving, and stronger than any human could overcome. In those first crucial moments, everyone on the boat realized they were witnessing something far more serious than a simple accident. The response from Zari's friends was immediate and heroic. Without hesitation, the boat captain's son threw himself into the treacherous water, determined to reach her before the currents could pull her further away. Two other women on the boat quickly followed, creating a desperate human chain of would-be rescuers fighting against Lake Michigan's relentless power. But the same forces that were dragging Zari toward deeper water now threatened her rescuers. The strong currents that had caught her off guard were equally dangerous for anyone who entered the water, regardless of their swimming ability. What had started as one person in distress quickly became multiple people struggling against the lake's invisible grip. The friends fought valiantly, swimming harder than they ever had in their lives, but Lake Michigan's currents proved stronger than human determination. The offshore winds continued pushing everyone further from the boat, making rescue attempts increasingly difficult and dangerous. Each passing second carried them all further from safety. Despite their courage and immediate response, Zari's friends found themselves battling an enemy they couldn't see or predict. The current seemed to have a mind of their own, pulling in different directions and making it nearly impossible to maintain control or make progress toward shore. Stop for a moment and think about this terrifying situation. How many of you have been on a boat and never really considered what would happen if someone fell overboard? Have you ever checked if there were enough life jackets for everyone on board? This is exactly why I need you to engage with this content. Hit that like button if this story is making you think differently about water safety. Comment below and tell me, do you always wear a life jacket when you're on a boat? Be honest, because what happened next shows just how quickly trained professionals can respond, but also how even they can be overwhelmed by Lake Michigan's power. The emergency call went out immediately, triggering a massive response from both the United States Coast Guard and the Chicago Fire Department. These were seasoned professionals who dealt with Lake Michigan rescues regularly, but even they knew the conditions that Saturday were particularly treacherous. Coast Guard vessels raced toward the playpen area, while Chicago Fire Department boats launched from multiple points along the shoreline. Helicopters joined the search, scanning the water from above as the clock ticked away precious minutes. Every second mattered when someone was fighting for their life in those dangerous currents. The rescue teams arrived to find a chaotic scene, multiple people in the water, strong winds making navigation difficult, and currents that seemed to be pulling in every direction. Despite their training and equipment, the professional rescuers faced the same enemy that had overwhelmed Zari's friends, Lake Michigan's unpredictable and powerful forces. At approximately 5:15 in the afternoon, roughly a mile and a half from shore near Navy Pier, rescue teams found Zari unresponsive in the water. They immediately began life-saving efforts while rushing her to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, but the lake had already claimed another victim. The medical team's desperate attempts to revive her would ultimately prove unsuccessful. Lake Michigan is a master of disguise, presenting a beautiful face while hiding deadly secrets beneath its surface. On any given summer day, the lake can appear as calm and inviting as a swimming pool, with gentle waves lapping against boats and crystal-clear water stretching to the horizon. Families feel safe bringing their children. Non-swimmers feel confident wading in shallow areas, and boaters anchor without a second thought about danger. But this peaceful appearance is one of Lake Michigan's most dangerous characteristics. What looks like a tranquil body of water can be hiding powerful underwater currents that move with the force of rushing rivers. These currents don't announce themselves with visible signs or warning markers. They operate silently beneath the surface, waiting to catch unsuspecting victims off guard. The lake's deceptive nature has claimed countless lives over the decades. Experienced swimmers have been pulled under by forces they never saw coming. Strong, athletic individuals have found themselves powerless against currents that seem to appear from nowhere. Even people standing in what they thought was shallow, safe water have been swept away by underwater forces that defied logic. Lake Michigan's size contributes to its unpredictability. Spanning over 22,000 square miles, it creates its own weather patterns and current systems that can change rapidly without warning. What appears safe in one moment can become deadly in the next, with no visible indication that conditions have shifted. Dave Benjamin, co-founder of the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project, has spent years studying Lake Michigan's deadly patterns and trying to educate the public about its hidden dangers. His warnings about the lake are both urgent and specific. Winds are dangerous currents on the Great Lakes. Anything that floats can go far and fast offshore with people on these objects as well. Benjamin's expertise comes from analyzing hundreds of drowning cases and rescue situations across the Great Lakes. He understands that most people simply don't comprehend how quickly conditions can deteriorate or how powerful the lake's forces can become. His organization works tirelessly to spread awareness about the specific risks that make Lake Michigan so deadly. Chicago Fire Department spokesman Larry Langford echoes these concerns with equally stark warnings. "You don't know what the lake is waiting for you," Langford explains. "It can look calm, but under the surface by a few feet, it could be churning." His words carry the weight of someone who has responded to countless water emergencies and seen firsthand how the lake's deceptive appearance leads to tragedy. Both experts emphasize that Lake Michigan doesn't discriminate. It has claimed experienced swimmers, boating enthusiasts, and water safety professionals. Their message is clear: respect the lake's power, or become another statistic. The weekend of June 21st, 2025, became one of the deadliest in recent Lake Michigan history. The Chicago Fire Department responded to a staggering 90 water-related emergency calls during those 2 days alone, a number that shocked even veteran first responders who were accustomed to busy summer weekends on the lake. Zari's drowning was not an isolated incident, but part of a horrific pattern that unfolded across the entire weekend. Multiple drownings occurred at different locations along the shoreline, while numerous other people went missing and required extensive search and rescue operations. Emergency rooms filled with victims suffering from heat exhaustion, near-drowning experiences, and injuries related to the dangerous water conditions. The overwhelming number of emergencies stretched Chicago's rescue resources to their absolute limits. Coast Guard vessels, fire department boats, helicopters, and ambulances worked around the clock, racing from one crisis to another. Emergency dispatchers struggled to coordinate responses as calls poured in faster than they could be handled. What made this weekend particularly tragic was how preventable many of these incidents could have been. The dangerous conditions were known to authorities. Warnings had been issued, but the combination of extreme heat and weekend crowds created a perfect storm of risk-taking behavior and deadly consequences. The deadly currents that claim Zari's life aren't random. They follow specific scientific principles that make them predictable yet invisible to untrained eyes. When strong winds blow across Lake Michigan's surface, they create what experts call longshore currents that run parallel to the shore, and more dangerous, rip currents that pull directly away from land. These wind-driven currents can reach speeds of several miles per hour, making them impossible for even strong swimmers to overcome. The currents operate like underwater conveyor belts, systematically moving anything caught in their grip toward deeper, more dangerous waters. What makes them particularly deadly is their ability to change direction and intensity without warning. Temperature differences between surface and deeper water create additional current layers that can pull victims downward while simultaneously dragging them offshore. The lake's massive size means these current systems can extend for miles, making escape nearly impossible once someone is caught in their grip. Understanding this science reveals why Zari's rescue proved so difficult despite immediate response efforts. The pain in Kizzy Wells' voice was unmistakable when she spoke about losing her daughter. "I would not wish this type of pain on any parent. Oh my gosh, it doesn't feel real," she said, her words carrying the weight of a grief so profound it seemed to defy comprehension. For a mother who had watched her daughter grow from a mature young girl into a successful businesswoman, the loss felt impossible to accept. Kizzy's statements revealed not just her personal anguish, but also her pride in who Zari had become. "She definitely did a lot of great things while she was here on Earth. I'm just heartbroken. I'm forever broken," she shared, acknowledging that while her daughter's life had been cut tragically short, it had been filled with purpose and achievement. The mother's grief was compounded by the sudden, unexpected nature of Zari's death. This wasn't an illness they had time to prepare for, or a gradual decline they could process together. One moment her daughter was alive and thriving, the next she was gone, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. Kizzy's words captured the raw reality of losing a child. The pain doesn't fade. It becomes part of who you are. The news of Zari's death sent shockwaves through social media, where 75,000 Instagram followers and countless clients learned of the tragedy. Tributes poured in from across the country, as people shared stories of how Zari had touched their lives. Her comment sections filled with heartbroken messages from clients who remembered not just her incredible hair skills, but her warm personality and encouraging spirit. Many shared personal stories of how Zari had made them feel beautiful and confident during difficult times in their lives. Others posted photos of hairstyles she had created, turning her Instagram page into a digital memorial celebrating her artistry and impact. The outpouring revealed just how many lives she had influenced through her work and genuine care for others. In the immediate aftermath, Kizzy Wells briefly established a GoFundMe campaign to help with memorial expenses, driven by the overwhelming grief and practical concerns that follow sudden loss. However, the family later took down the fundraiser after clarifying that Zari had been financially responsible and carried life insurance. They issued refunds to those who had donated and thanked the community for their support, explaining that the campaign had been created during an emotional moment rather than from actual financial need. Within the hairstyling community, Zari's death created a void that seemed impossible to fill. Fellow stylists across Chicago and beyond shared memories of a woman who had elevated their entire profession through her skill, work ethic, and genuine passion for her craft. Many described her as an inspiration who had shown them what was possible when talent met determination. Her clients faced the heartbreaking reality of losing someone who had been more than just their hairstylist. For many, Zari had been a confidant, a source of encouragement, and a constant positive presence in their lives. The phone calls that always ended with "I love you" would be deeply missed by people who had come to depend on her warmth and support. The celebrity hairstyling world lost one of its rising stars, someone who had built a reputation that extended far beyond Chicago's borders. Industry professionals recognized that Zari's combination of technical skill and personal connection with clients was rare and special. Her Instagram account, once a showcase of her latest work, became a testament to a career that had been building toward even greater success. Young stylists who had looked up to Zari as a role model now carried forward her legacy of excellence and genuine care for clients. Zari's tragic death offers crucial lessons that could save your life or the life of someone you love. First and most importantly, always wear a life jacket when on any boat, regardless of how calm the water appears or how close you are to shore. Life jackets are not just for non-swimmers. Even Olympic-level swimmers can be overpowered by Lake Michigan's deadly currents. Know your limits and be honest about your swimming abilities. If you cannot swim, never enter the water without proper flotation devices, and always stay within arm's reach of the boat. Weather awareness is equally critical. Check wind conditions and water advisories before heading out, and don't let beautiful surface conditions fool you into ignoring safety warnings. Monitor heat indices and understand that extreme temperatures can impair judgment and physical abilities. When winds exceed 15 miles per hour on large lakes, consider postponing water activities. Remember that Lake Michigan is not a swimming pool. It's a massive body of water with its own dangerous weather systems that can turn deadly without warning. If this story has opened your eyes to water safety dangers you never considered before, smash that like button right now. Share this video with everyone you know who spends time on boats or near large bodies of water. It could literally save their life. Drop a comment below and tell me what safety measures you're going to implement after hearing Zari's story. Are you going to start wearing life jackets? Will you check weather conditions more carefully? Your engagement helps this life-saving message reach more people. Subscribe for more stories that combine compelling narratives with crucial safety lessons that could protect you and your loved ones. Zari Wall's legacy extends far beyond her successful career and loving relationships. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that tragedy can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time. By learning from her experience and implementing proper water safety measures, we ensure that her death was not in vain.